If you own a crock pot, you are better off if you learn how to make your chicken noodle soup in it. Chicken noodle soup is a classic for chilly days and it's quite easy to prepare. This meal is made easier by preparing it in a crock pot. You may wonder why bother with learning how to make chicken noodle soup in a crock pot when you can buy a can of soup in the grocery store. Here's why. With homemade soup, you can tweak a recipe to suit your taste and mood at different times. But not so with store-bought soup. When you try a homemade chicken noodle soup, you'll never go back to store-bought. There are so many recipes for chicken noodle soup, but rest assured that the basics of preparation and cooking are the same. You can either dump all the ingredients in one pot, the crock pot, or you boil the noodles in a different pot from the soup and mix everything in the end. Method 1. One-pot cooking. Place your chicken and all the veggies, spices and seasonings in a crock pot. Pour the chicken stock over the ingredients. Reserve 1 cup for later. Cover the pot and set to cook for 4 to 6 hours on low or 2 to 3 hours on high. The time would vary depending on the model of your crock pot or slow cooker. However, ensure that your chicken has reached an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. To check for doneness of your chicken, always check the thickest part of the chicken. Remove the chicken from the crock pot to a mixing bowl. It is also at this point that you remove herbs like rosemary sprigs, bay leaves or any of such spices. Shred the chicken and set aside. Add the noodles to the soup and cook for 10 minutes on low. Add the shredded chicken and the remaining cup of chicken stock that you set aside. You can add more than the 1 cup because the noodles would have absorbed some liquid as it cooked. Method 2. Boiling the noodles separately. Some folks argue that cooking the noodles separately produces perfect noodles. If you choose this method, follow the steps described before to cook your soup. But as the soup is getting to the end of its cook time, get a separate pot and cook the noodles according to the direction on the package. When the soup is done cooking, drain the noodles and add to the soup. Add the shredded chicken and stir to mix everything well. Cover the pot and leave to cook for 5 minutes on low. Sample recipe. Here's a sample recipe to help you. Ingredients needed: 2 large-size boneless skinless chicken breasts, 4 medium-size carrots chopped, 1 medium onion whole, garlic to taste, 3 stalks celery chopped, a bundle of fresh rosemary, 2 bay leaves, a box of chicken broth, salt and pepper to taste, 1 packet of noodles, fresh parsley chopped. You can tweak the recipe to suit your taste. But, do not omit carrots and celery. These help to add great flavors and color to your soup, and the soup wouldn't be perfect them. You can use either chicken stock or chicken broth. Just be sure that whichever one you use states that it is reduced sodium. This would help you control the quantity of salt in your soup. If you have an aversion to onions, you can just peel the onions that the recipe calls for and throw it in whole. Then you can remove it after the soup is done. One other thing you can do is sautéing the onions after you have diced it. If you want chicken noodle soup that is bursting with extra flavor, throw in a bundle of fresh rosemary to the soup. You can also use fresh thyme instead of rosemary. The most commonly used chicken is boneless chicken breasts. However, you can use any part of the chicken that you prefer as long as you can take the pain to debone and shred. Some people even like to use rotisserie chicken. It is best to use raw or defrosted chicken for your soup. If you put frozen chicken straight into your crock pot, it would take extra time to get to the right temperature, and this may endanger the food safety of the meat. Storing and reheating chicken noodle soup. You can store your soup in an airtight container in the fridge for 3 days. But ensure that the soup is completely cool before storing. It can also be stored in the freezer for up to 3 months. When you want to thaw out the frozen soup, move it first to the fridge and leave it to stay there overnight before you reheat it. To reheat the soup, pour it into a saucepan and place on medium-low heat until it is hot. You can also use a microwave. Chicken noodle soup is a hearty meal that's not only great for the flu or common cold, but it's also great comfort food. More so, it's rich in nutrients as long as you use fresh products and healthy ingredients. If you do not like to cook always, you can make a large batch and freeze. If you've enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button below. Hit the notification bell so you'll know once we post a new video. Also, drop a comment below so we can know your thoughts. Finally, don't forget to check the description below for more details. Visit our site hotpots4u.com for more awesome cooking pot tips.